Well, I will. Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. I'm Emily from Cambridge in the UK.
And I'm Gabriel. I'm from Birmingham, which is also in the UK. And we are both teachers at the Ponte Lungo School in Rome.
Yeah.
If there's anyone out there, please tell us your name and, and where you're from or where you are.
So we are going to look at history of a city, discuss the history of a city, revise passives, and look at phrases related to history. So while we're waiting for some students to arrive, there's some kind of interesting questions, I think. Yeah?
How fundamental do you think it is to know a city's history?
It's a bit of a weird question because it's not really contextualized. Like, in what context does the question?
Yes. Paolo from Busto Arsizio. Hi, Paolo. And we have Tony. Yeah. If you make interesting contributions, yes, you can, Tony.
I don't know if it's really fundamental. I find that for me, it's much more interesting if I'm visiting or living in a place if I know something about the history. I guess Rome is very beautiful, so you could appreciate just how beautiful it is even if you didn't know anything about the history. But it's a much richer experience. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I agree. I think it's a kind of a little bit of a loaded question in the sense that it seems how fundamental is quite a strong is quite a strong adjective in this sense. I think how important I think would usually be the phrasing of this question. How important do you think it is to know a city's history? I agree with what you're saying in the sense that I think you can go to an art gallery and you can see a painting, for instance, or a work of art, and often you will get the little note alongside it that explains it gives you a bit of context and a little bit of background about maybe form or history. And it's not like when you look at the work of art or the piece, you don't get something without reading the little short piece on the side. But I think sometimes that little bit of background information, perhaps about the form or about the history, further enriches your appreciation of it.
Yeah. And I think that's quite an interesting metaphor to take a work of art as a kind of metaphor for a city in this case. Because I think in both questions, I think it's not an exact equivalent, but it's a really interesting comparison about how the question of knowing the history and a bit of information about something affects your appreciation of it. And the differences between a work of art and a city is quite an interesting comparison, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's one aspect of it. I think because you took it along the line of the kind of thought space of beauty and appreciating it.
Yeah,
I thought it was similar to art. But Paolo said it's vital to know our roots. Yeah, nice way of phrasing it. Why is it vital to know our roots, do you think, Paolo? I guess that's kind of, and Tony, if you're still here as well, I guess that's kind of related to the second question too.
Yeah.
In some way, or what I think you're saying there, Paolo. When you know a city's history, do you think it changes your perception of it?
I definitely think it does. Not that it becomes like a different, well, I suppose in a sense it does almost become like a different city. And Rome, we both live in Rome, and that's a very good example of how, I mean, in Rome you can hardly avoid the history of the city. I mean, when you're here you can hardly avoid it, but also growing up you can hardly avoid learning something about the history of Rome. So I think everyone arrives here with a kind of basic idea.
Yes, it's of such, Rome in itself is of such cultural importance to European identity as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just smiling at Ilaria's comment, and she's
Ilaria.
She's her brother.
Hello to Ilaria, and hello to Ilaria's brother.
Do you know much about your own city's history, Gabe? And are you interested in its history?
Comparatively, my city, Birmingham, has a much shorter history. It was a small medieval village, but it's chiefly an industrial city, and it grew up around the early 19th century. So it's at the heart of the Industrial Revolution. And I used to enjoy going around old Victorian towns and kind of the coal mines and things around Birmingham, but it's got quite a dark. I do take quite an interest in my own city's history, but it's a dark history, I think, in some respects.
Yeah, I think the history of cities during the Industrial Revolution is very, very interesting and very important for understanding the world we live in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Paula says, vital to avoid possible mistakes in the future, for example.
Yeah. That's quite a practical take on history, which is great.
Although, do we? That's the question, isn't it? I'm just seeing a lot of comparisons right now with the Spanish flu and the Spanish flu pandemic, and after the First World War. Have we learned much? Fabiola, good to have you on.
The question, so number 4, the question of being proud of a city is interesting. It's quite, I've always find that kind of difficult to answer. I don't know that I feel
That's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think I would say that I feel proud. I'm from Cambridge, which is it's a famous city, and it has an amazing history. I feel kind of I feel interested in it, and I feel a kind of affection towards Cambridge and the history of Cambridge, but I don't know if I feel proud of it. Ilaria's not interested in history. So this might not be the most interesting focus for you. I could know better my city and also the actual problem. So Fabiola, that's great, and I think is connected to what Paolo was saying as well. But we don't say in English the actual problem, because this is a false friend, but the current problems. So actual in English doesn't mean of today, but it means real, or I guess true in a sense as well. And attuale is current.
Current. Paolo said, yes, I'm proud because Romans, for example, brought civilization everywhere.
So, but Paolo, are you in Rome? Where's Busto Arsizio?
No, he's in Busto Arsizio, which is just northwest of Milan, I think. I was reading about the etymology of Busto Arsizio the other day. I think I think something about burnt grass or something. The burnt land in order to make space for agricultural. I think bustar sitio means something like burnt land. Can you tell me, Paolo? I'm not sure.
Hi, Marco.
Hello, Marco. Where are you, Marco? Yeah, I agree with you on number 4 as well, Emily. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's like kind of identifying yourself.
Yeah.
And part of your identity with the historical development of that place, which can be really. It depends how it's used, I think, in that sense, doesn't it? How you use it, because I feel a deep affection for Birmingham. Am I proud of it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Or am I embarrassed by it? You could take the other.
Yeah. I think I feel, in a sense, I feel more connected to London than I do to Cambridge. I can see myself returning to live in London, but I can't see myself ever going back to live in Cambridge. And with London, I think London is a little more connected to my identity. As someone who lives in London, but again, I wouldn't say I feel proud of London's history either. There's a lot of stuff in the history of London that I think is fascinating and that I love and that I am pleased to be connected to. But then there's also lots of facets of London's history which are quite. I thought Antonelli was a familiar name because he's one of our students. Yeah. Sorry, I need to. What was I saying?
We were talking about the kind of dark history. I think London has some amazing things, but also is a kind of very dark place. Yeah, I mean, I remember visiting Versailles a couple of times, and I had a very mixed feeling of just the architectural brilliance and the form, and it's just one of the most magical places and constructions I've ever seen. It really does hold up to that, and the gardens and everything. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, oh my gosh, who had to suffer for this? This kind of power to be able to be built and exhibited, I think is.
Yeah. And then with Versailles, it's also connected to the downfall of the power that had built it. It's so connected with the French Revolution and.
Yeah, but it depends which line of history you're taking. Are you taking the aristocratic side, or are you taking the people who are suffering underneath it too as well?
Well, I mean, I think it's symbolic of both of those sides of the coin. That's why I think Versailles is a particularly interesting, even more than than Buckingham Palace or some other examples of royal palaces, because it was a symbol of kind of the peak of monarchical decadence, but then it's also a symbol of the.
Tivoli is a good one. I don't know if you've visited. There's a Lucrezia Borgia's son, I think. It was Lucrezia Borgia's place of residence and kind of palace just east of Rome. It's kind of like a mini Versailles, but more ornamental and in some ways prettier. And it had a very similar feel to me in that sense. It was just so decadent and so ridiculously.
Yeah.
I'm proud of my city's history because it is culturally rich, we might say, or rich in culture, you could say, Fabiola. I'm proud of my city's history because it is rich in culture.
Yeah. Marco, I think each country has a bright and a dark side. Is a very good point. This is connected to what we've been saying, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's go forwards because there are a lot of activities here. Okay. So we have 3 verbs which are quite similar. Look at these examples of phrases with history. And so we have make history. Guy Fawkes made history with his plot to blow up the Houses of Parliament in London.
Go down in history. Fawkes went down in history as London's most notorious terrorist.
And earn a place in history. Michael Phelps earned a place in history by becoming the most successful Olympian of all time. He won his 22nd Olympic medal at the London Olympics in 2012. I didn't realize he'd won 20, well, maybe more since then. So if we look at this first sentence, to blow up means to make explode. So for anyone that doesn't know the story of Guy Fawkes, it's very, very famous in the UK, but not really at all out of the UK. Guy Fawkes was a man in the 17th century?
Early 17th century, yeah.
Yeah, who filled the basement of the Houses of Parliament with gunpowder. And he wanted to, yeah. You probably
go on.
than I do.
Well, it was part of an ongoing dispute between kind of Catholicism and Protestantism in the UK, and effectively there was an assassination plot to kill the king, who was a Protestant king, and Guy Fawkes was in a kind of a Catholic terrorist group. I'm not sure we would use terrorist. It's slightly kind of anachronistic name in this, yeah. But he was part of a plot to kill the king.
Yeah, but the Catholics were severely repressed at that time.
Yeah.
So he was doing it. Wow. That's a.
It's a long. It's as Emily said. It's a very famous event in the United Kingdom, and we on the 5th of November each year there is an event called Guy Fawkes Night or Bonfire Night, where we have fireworks, and there's a bonfire in which a figure of Guy Fawkes is burnt on the bonfire traditionally. It's a bit of a weird festival. That's it, Marco. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot.
Yeah. And V for Vendetta probably has done more for educate, for letting people around the rest of the world know about Guy Fawkes than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these verbs, guys, make history, go down in history, earn a place in history. These are so similar. I think these 3. I don't know if I wouldn't just say that they're synonyms. I think maybe there are some differences in kind of use. So maybe to go down in history, Ambrosia. To go down in history maybe is more often used to describe someone who did something bad, but not necessarily. But it's just more often used in that way. And then to earn a place in history, we would use it more often to describe something good, but it doesn't have to be for that.
Yeah, they're so synonymous, these things, as you said.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys can teach us a bit about your city now. We've got Brainstorm, what makes your city go down in history? Who has earned a place in history? Is your city important enough to have made history? So just some sentences using these verbs to describe what is special about your cities. Famous landmarks, well-known products, famous artists or writers, renowned people from your city in general, well-known events. What about Birmingham, Gabe? What's I'm not sure I could name any famous landmarks in Birmingham. I've never
landmarks in Birmingham. The thing is, they probably aren't very well known on an international scale. So well, Cadbury's for you. You would around the UK. Cadbury's is a very famous chocolate factory.
What about people from Birmingham?
People from Birmingham. Ozzy Osbourne made history when he when he produced the first heavy metal album in 1970, Black Sabbath.
Ah, I'm sorry I laughed so much. That's a legitimate thing.
No, it is. It is. Birmingham, as I always tell the students, Birmingham is the home of heavy metal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Ilaria. I live in a small city in Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. The only person who earned a place in history is Padoin,
who's a famous football player, played in Juventus. He earned a place in history. Good, yeah. It's good use of that phrase, yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. My hometown is pretty good for this sort of thing because of Cambridge University. So many famous people, world famous scientists, things have come through. So Darwin, Charles Darwin, who came up with the theory of evolution, which I think we can fairly safely say made history. Lived in Cambridge and studied there. One of the colleges is called Darwin College after him. Oh yeah, Marco's made a good point.
Peaky Blinders are from Birmingham and earned a place in history of the TV series. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, those guys are from Birmingham as well. Yes, coming from a university, from one of the two university towns, you have a veritable wealth of very important, famous, a smorgasbord. A smorgasbord of famous people.
Yeah. Newton lived in Cambridge as well. I think.
What about your cities, guys? Yeah. So we have one from Ilaria.
People, famous events, landmarks, products. Like Gabe said, Cadbury's chocolate is from his hometown, which is very important in the UK, although not so much out.
Yeah.
I bet there are some famous writers from Birmingham that I just have no idea that they're from Birmingham.
Benjamin Zephaniah is from Birmingham.
Oh, I know him. He's cool.
He's our most recent. William Morris is from Birmingham. So.
Was he? That's pretty good.
Well, also Tolkien.
Was he from Birmingham?
Tolkien. A lot of the landscapes in Lord of the Rings are based on landscapes around Birmingham. Yeah.
Wow.
Dante Alighieri was a famous poet we'd use for the who earned a place in our literary history. Yeah, fantastic example there. Just for the, I hesitate to say occupation, but the person of poetry would be a poet.
Yeah.
I think you probably knew that.
More examples, guys. Ambrogio, what about you? Marco, for Rome, give us an example for Rome. And Fabiola, we haven't had an example.
Fabiola, if you're still with us.
Yeah. Oh, Ilaria, I'm studying in Padua, and I think that it earned a place in history as the first city with a. I
Fantastic.
don't know the first in Italy or in the world. That's amazing. That's really cool. Okay, so just to look, your sentence is great, Ilaria. There's just one little thing, which is another common thing that Italians do speaking English. We wouldn't say a graduated woman. I think this is translated from Italian, but we would say with a female graduate. Would probably be the simplest way to say it. But otherwise, that's a good
example, yeah.
Yeah. So Padua earned a place in history in this way. And I guess that woman, I don't know what her name was, but that woman must have gone down in history also. I'm going to try and name and change some more people into...
We have one from Fabiola. My city has a lot of important people. Masaniello made history with
his
popular, revolution. He went down in history because he raised...
Where is Fabiola?
It's here.
I know.
From...
I don't remember where she's from.
Rome.
Oh, Rome.
Rome. Well, I don't know if she's from Rome. Lives in Rome. Oh no, hang on. Are you in Salerno? Something? I don't recall. Sorry, Fabiola.
And I'm
definitely what about? Go on.
Sad to say, I've never heard of Masaniello before, so I'm interested to hear about that.
I'm just double checking.
And Marco. Oh. Yeah.
Oh no, that's right. Sorry. Forgive me. Fabiola's from.
I'm laughing
Naples,
at Marco's comment. Oh, and we had Caesar and Augustus. Yeah, I mean, in Rome, there's no shortage of events and people and landmarks that have gone down in history. Oh, so yeah, Dante Gabriele Rossetti was a very famous painter in the UK. And yeah. There's another Dante. I've always thought of him as being British. I realise it's a very Italian name, but I don't know his family history. So maybe he came to the UK from Italy. But he was part of an artistic movement that feels very particular to the UK, which was the Pre-Raphaelites.
A lot of Pre-Raphaelite stuff in Birmingham as well. Sorry, that's just a...
No, that's cool.
Sorry, Masaniello is... well, at least the revolt against the Habsburgs is in Naples.
And Naples.
Yeah. He went down in history because... I'm just in response to Fabiola. He went down in history because he
I'm not sure what you mean.
Revolted against, well, the Habsburgs, the Spanish tax in some way, I think. Maybe he revolted against the Spanish tax, maybe.
Okay, cool. Let's go forward. Yeah, he died in London. Rossetti. I think I have passed his house in London. I think it's somewhere in Bloomsbury. And definitely that artistic movement, the pre-Raphaelites, were based at least partly in Bloomsbury.
Yeah, Bloomsbury's another intellectual hub. It's probably the London intellectual hub, isn't it?
Yeah,
or one of them, definitely.
And and especially interesting because it's not just one movement, but it's been the intellectual hub of more than one movement.
Yeah.
He was
feminism as well around there too. Feminist writers.
Yeah. Okay. We've got some reading. Oh, let's before we. So Moravia and Elsa Morante were really good writers from Rome. Yeah.
Elsa Morante.
Oh. That's good tips because I can look those people up and maybe actually I've heard of both of them before, but
I think
I've never read anything by them.
Founded the most famous pizzeria, which is now even in New York and Milan.
Huh.
Lovely.
Interesting. History in the making. Okay.
Okay, so we are looking for passives in this slide. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. So I'll read St. Petersburg.
Okay.
And you can take over from. St. Petersburg was founded by Tsar Peter on the 27th of May, 1703. From 1713 to 1728, and from 1732 to 1918, St. Petersburg was the imperial capital of Russia. In 1918, the central government bodies moved from St. Petersburg, then named Petrograd, to Moscow. It is Russia's second largest city after Moscow.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Niemskans, I hope there are no Russian speakers listening to this. Was originally Swedish.
Swedish. Niemskans.
Originally a Swedish fortress on the Neva River, and a small town called Nien grew up around it. Peter the Great was interested in seafaring and maritime affairs. He wanted Russia to gain a foothold on the coast so it could trade with other maritime nations. In order to do so, he needed a better seaport. After Niemskans had been captured, he set about replacing their fortress. The city was built by conscripted peasants from all over Russia. Although it is no longer the capital, it is often described as the most western city in Russia. Okay.
So, where are the passives? If there's any vocab as well, guys, let us know.
So we should start from the beginning of the passage, guys. We'll try and go through kind of a bit systematically. What's the first passive? Great. Was founded. Gabe, could you check what happens if I click forward?
Sure.
So Lara has given us was founded.
Yeah, they all, hang on.
So Ilaria's question, the difference between port and harbour, I don't know. I expect there is a technical difference. I don't know. I would use them in the same way. Maybe Gabe knows.
I don't know how you've got the slide up without the passives underlined.
Slide
if I'm
6.
honest. Yeah. It's weird. Binaural underlined.
Oh.
Oh, hang on. Oh, wait. No, my slide 6 is blank. So I think if you click forward, it just goes to the slide with the passives underlined.
Okay,
so
well,
don't click. No.
Okay. And you guys are right. Had been captured. We've got here. I can see 2 more passives. Ah, Peter was interested. I think interested is just an adjective. To be interested in something. So it doesn't count as a passive. Was interested here.
Port and harbour could be used interchangeably.
Oh.
But this is in response to Hilaria. But sometimes you can use port as an even more general sense. So you might have several harbours, as in several places where you can dock a ship. You can sail the ship next to land. You might have several harbours within a port.
Ah.
So you might have like a port town or a port city which has several harbours.
Yeah, I was laughing at Hilaria's comment.
I know that, but my brother's stupid and he wrote it. Well, Ilaria, I'm stupid enough to respond to it, so I'll say I found it interesting.
No, she means was interested. She said was interested. Well, from her account, we had was interested as a passive, and
I see. Okay.
I corrected her, but it was her brother, which is fine. That's good. We want all contributions. And Fabiola absolutely was built. And there's one more. Yeah, and it was absolutely a good question about port and harbour. I didn't. Now
it's a
I
really
know.
interesting one. It's a really interesting distinction.
So what, guys? What's the last passive in there? Probably a bunch of people have written. We're just waiting for their messages to come through. Yeah, it is often described exactly like that. Yeah, good marker. Yeah,
Perfect.
So,
excellent.
Cool. There we go.
What types of passives are these?
Yeah. So
Maybe
what is
just quickly? Actually, no, because the next slide goes on to reveal. So yeah.
Well,
let's start with was founded, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. What is the tense?
What kind of passive? What tense? Yeah.
Past simple, perfect. Had been captured. What's the tense of this one? Past perfect. Great.
Excellent.
Okay. I think was built. Maybe we can skip because it's the same. It
Passive,
is often
yeah. Well done, Paolo.
past perfect.
And it is often described.
I feel like we should know the name of Ilaria's brother, though, because he's very in control of the situation. Because
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. Present simple passive. What's the name of your brother, Ilaria?
Or he can tell us directly. To Ilaria's brother, what is your name?
To Ilaria's brother, what's your name? Yes, that's right, Marco. Well done.
Great.
Present passive.
Okay. Tell the history of your city to a partner. Try to use passives. In fact, I'm going to say, don't try to use passives. Use passives. Past simple, present perfect, past perfect. All of the theory about different tenses applies in the active and the passive. So all of the rules that you have learned about when we use one tense or another, that is true in the passive just like it is in the active. Every single tense has a passive version and an active version, and the rules are the same when we use which one. So think carefully about your sentence and which is the best tense for it. And I'm going to think of some. I'm going to do one. Some for my town. Oxford University.
Don't try, succeed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Had been established before Cambridge.
Yeah, and that's right, Fabiola. It is often described present passive. Yeah.
Jacopo. Hi, Jacopo.
Jacopo.
Yes, good stuff.
I've been in the US for 6 months.
Very nice. So, Jacopo, are you stuck in the US? Are you quarantined in America? Oh, my internet's going really slowly.
Nice, yeah.
Thank
I thought they only had Cambridge University was only established because of the practically the witch hunt for hanging friars at Oxford. That's right, isn't it? They were hanging. I think they were hanging friars and teachers at Oxford University because of certain conflicts between the doctrine that they were teaching and
I know that Cambridge was set
the monarchy.
Up. Yeah, well, that's more detail than I know. I knew that it was set up by people who left Oxford.
I think it was because of I think it was because of certain conflicts between the crown. I know, right? Now I'm in Italy. I lived there 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. So, Jacopo, in that case, we would say I was in the US for 6 months. Because if you use the present perfect, it means that the period isn't finished. So I have been in the US for 6 months implies that you're there now. But like you said in your other sentence, I lived there 2 years ago. I was there for 6 months. Very good.
Any passives, guys?
What about you, Gabe? You give us an example.
Hang on. Give me a sec. Takes time for us as well.
Yeah. So from, I don't know now if it's from Ilario or from Jacopo, but I guess it's true for both people. My dad was elected as the mayor of my city in 2009. Very interesting. Oh, I can't remember what city it was. Were they from Florence?
As the mayor of my city in 2000. Excellent.
Do you remember where they're from? I know Ilaria is studying in Padua. Ah, yeah. Well, a small
Didn't
city.
they say a small town in Friuli, Giulia?
Quite.
Which small town, guys?
And to everybody, we want lots of examples. Marco, Fabiola, Paolo. Who else can I name? I think Tony must have abandoned us at the beginning.
I think so, perhaps.
Very small city, Gemona del Friuli. I don't know it. No. Colosseum had been built when Romans had been dominating the world. So the Colosseum had been built, that's good. I think we would probably say when the Romans were dominating the world. So it's, or maybe even the Colosseum was built when the Romans were dominating the world, because the Colosseum was built not before that period, but during that period. So I'm not sure we would use the past perfect for that, because they were kind of at the same time. So maybe the Colosseum was built when the Romans were dominating the world.
We're dominating the world, yeah.
Yeah.
A great part of the known world had been ruled by Rome.
During the second.
Had been perhaps.
Well, we would again.
Had been conquered, perhaps. Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on with the same. No, I know, but had been conquered. In the sense that it's the past moment up until now. I think it's but you could say a great part of the known world had been conquered by Rome by the 2nd century.
Yeah. So not during the 2nd century,
because it's the past up until that point.
Yeah.
Had been ruled by Rome, had been conquered by Rome by the 2nd century.
Yeah. Because the past perfect is always relative to another moment in the past. It has to happen before something else. So a great part of the known world had been conquered by Rome before the 2nd century AD.
Before or by, yeah. But you could say ruled, I think, as well, in this sense. I don't know. Sorry, I was initially.
And I think Marco means BC. Or AD.
Well, you could say.
Maybe AD, yeah.
Is it not anno?
But that's Antichristo, isn't it? Out before Christ. Isn't that where the Italian comes from? I mean, they're kind of both,
yeah,
I mean, even by
yeah.
the second,
Had been ruled by Rome.
BC, Rome hadn't conquered that much of the known world. I
But
think.
yeah,
That
I think it's AD, isn't it? Yeah. But you could, I mean, the thing is also you could say CE, but
I know. Well, that's
AD. Right, AD. Yeah, great.
great,
Emails
Ilaria.
couldn't
That's
study
great.
before they had been allowed by Padua University. Excellent.
And
Julius Caesar was born in Rome in 100 BC or 101. We aren't sure. Good.
really nice, guys. Yeah, we have to stop.
Oh yeah.
But that was really good stuff. Gabriel never did give us an example.
I can give you one now. It just isn't a very nice one to end on.
No, I mean,
it's a
okay. Right.
All right. Great stuff, guys. Thank you. We'll hopefully see you again at some point. I can't remember when our next 10 to 13 is, but I'm sure we'll see you again.
Wait, not
are you checking?
Week. It's not this week, but next week we'll have some more.
Anno Domini. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a nice evening.